I can start it off. I'm dialing in from the Algarve in southern Portugal today, where we're having some sun, some rain, some wind, and it's been like that for 3 weeks. Washington, D.C., all right. Barcelona. Sao Paulo, all right. Ali, you're from Birmingham. Virgit's calling in from Cologne today. Andy from Philadelphia. Excellent. Michael, welcome from San Francisco. It truly is a global cafe today. We're spread wide and far. Hi, Shreya. Are you in Atlanta?
Yes, I am. Nice to see you.
Hi, Inga. So, while everybody is checking in and letting us know where they are, let me give you a quick overview of what we've got on the agenda today. First, Birgit will give us an update on what's happening with the Service Design Network right now, what's coming up, what you should be aware of, things like that. There'll be some exciting announcements, obviously, about the upcoming global conference in the autumn, where things are really kicking into gear there. And then I'm going to introduce you to our special guest today, Professor Dr. Ali Bigdeli from Birmingham, not Birmingham, Alabama, Birmingham, UK. um, Ali hails from the Aston Business School, and I'll talk a little bit about Ali in a moment because we're going to hear a very interesting a presentation on the topic of servitization, which is one that's been dear and dear to me for quite a number of years. So look forward to that. Throughout the presentation, feel free, obviously, to leave your questions, to make comments, to make observations, and we will have plenty of time to have a chat with Ali after he shares his perspective. So I think we can kick it off, Birgit, if you like, with an up-on.
Okay, let me get started. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you for this Global Cafe. I'll keep it short because I don't want to steal time from Ali. We are about ready to start the 4th edition of the Next Gen conference that will be on April 11th in the virtual space. It's an event organized by our Young Talent Board, and they are really bringing a taste of the next generation of service design into the game. If you have not yet looked at the program and at the opportunities to participate and partner, please have a look at their website. Then we are really busy with the global conference in October. It's always overwhelming that we spent almost a year planning for that event. We have a team of approximately 30 volunteers. They are super busy in different groups like the speaker team, the participant experience team, the AV team. So it's amazing. Once a week we have a meeting and everybody gives updates. So the early bird ticket sales is over. But the early bird ticket sales has started. So if you're interested in participating in our 18th global conference, make sure to have a look at our website. And then we are starting the 2nd edition of our masterclasses that lead to professional accreditation by the Service Design Network. So I'm sure we will be having a 3rd edition of that later this year. It has received such great feedback from all participants, and I think it's a real valuable experience to go through these masterclasses. Yeah, and besides that, we are partnering with the World Design Capital 2026. More news about that will be coming later that year. You might be aware of the World Design Capital. For me, I think it was Helsinki where it came on my radar for the first time, because Finland really used the fact that Helsinki was World Design Capital to bring service design into the awareness of the public and the private sector. And I'm pretty sure that in Germany, in Frankfurt next year, the same thing will happen. And the Service Design Network is, really putting a lot of time and energy in planning the activities around World Design Capital. So that's it for now. I give the word back to Brian, and I guess then to Ali.
Brian, can you hear us? Are you in?
I must have lost him, probably.
Okay,
It seems.
Portugal. Hello, where's Portugal? Okay, so we were not really prepared for the situation, but of course, we are super flexible. And why don't you introduce yourself, Ali? I know that you will be
Absolutely, no
talking
problem.
about servitization, and I'm extremely excited to have you here. So why don't you introduce yourself, and then you can share your screen and start your
Absolutely.
presentation.
Absolutely. So give me 1 second, and I'm going to just share my screen. I think Brian is back. I'm not sure whether he can hear us, but anyway, I hope that you can hear me okay.
Yes, it's great.
Okay. Can you also see my screen as well?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Perfect. So I think let's kick off, I guess, but hopefully we'll have Brian at some point with us. I guess he said that he's got some internet issue. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by you, and thanks for the invitation. My name is Professor Ali Bigdeli, and I'm a professor of industrial service innovation at Aston Business School in Birmingham in the UK. And today I want to talk to you about how servitization is actually shaping the future of business. I'll tell you a little bit about ourselves, who we are, what we do in the business school, and then I'll focus a little bit on the topic, share some of the examples and the businesses that we've been working with, and then probably we can have a Q&A. I would be delighted to hear your views and your questions and have the discussions if that's okay. So let me just check. Yeah, so I'm one of the co-directors of the Advanced Services Group. We are a research-led advisory firm, a spin-out from university that work exclusively on this topic of servitization. Of course, as a bunch of researchers, we do research, cutting-edge research on this topic of service-led business models, service design, and servitization. But a lot of our work is around collaborative and engaged scholarship. So we work with lots of different businesses through different kind of channels and different partnerships with the businesses to better understand how they actually develop service business models and actually implement and they actually adopt these new business models. So we provide advice, consulting, trainings, and community-like kind of community-like-minded practitioners around advanced services and servitization. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what do I mean, or how do we define servitization and advanced services. So for the past probably 10 years or so, we've worked with over 450 businesses across different sectors. And this is basically some of the businesses that we've worked with. You can see some of the logos. And these cuts across both small, medium-sized enterprises and large multinationals, whether in the West Midlands area of the UK and England, up until across the Atlantic, the businesses in the US and in Far East Asia, and with one key mission of helping them to accelerate the adoption of service-led business model in their businesses and in their firms. When I was talking to Brian and thinking about today's talk and how I would approach it, I thought it would be a good idea if I focus on three kind of parts and not in details. I'm conscious of the time, but we've recently published a book about mid of last year on servitization strategy, and in the book we are focusing on three big kind of topics around what do we mean by servitization, and what do we mean by advanced services, and then the whole idea of why advanced services and servitization are actually important, and ultimately about the how. So the what and the why and the how. And I thought it would be a good idea if I just focus on these three aspects in turn. And then, as I said, we can have open up conversation. I guess you would prefer me to go through the slides and probably have the Q&A through the end. But if there was any questions that you wanted to raise, etc., I'd be happy to take it halfway through as well. So just let me know. So in terms of the what questions, we have come across, I guess you as well, come across different types of businesses that are out there. Of course, we've got businesses that they make money when they actually customers buys their products. The examples is of course is Lego. You go to the store, you buy the package of Lego, you pay for it, you come out and off you go. There are companies that they make money when their customers actually repair their products. We've got a company in the UK called QuickFit. It's like a garage that you can take your car in. They don't manufacture any car, etc. They just repair the car, they change the oil, they change the brakes, etc., etc. So they get paid as they repair products. We've got businesses that they actually make money when they repair their products, and the examples are Schneider Electric, or Schneider, and they repair the big chunk of their businesses is around making money when they repair their lifts and their escalators, the excavators that they've got in different part of the customers' clients. And ultimately, then we have businesses that they make money when the customers are actually using their products. Again, Zipcar, I'm not sure whether actually Zipcar operates in Europe or in the States, but Zipcar it's not like Uber. It's like a car's parked different part of the city. You can actually get the membership and reserve it in your phone and go and use the car and park it back somewhere a designated area, and then the company gets paid as we use the product. Ultimately, what I'm very much interested in, this is the topic of today's talk, is about those businesses that are actually getting paid as the customers get the outcome that they're looking for, as they exceed and they succeed through the outcomes. And the example of that could be about companies that are making that have entered into the outcome-based business models. And then one example is Michelin's. There are other examples that I'll share with you, but Michelin's basically has moved on from just selling the tires into keeping trucks on the road. So the outcomes of what their customers are actually looking for. If I want to give you another perspective of around servitization, this is a typical production and consumption model where, on the one hand, you've got the manufacturer or the industrial firms that are manufacturing things. In this case, it could be excavator, and on the other hand, is the customers that are actually buying the product on a transactional basis, and they're actually using the products in their operations. And if you think about it, the business-to-business context, they are in charge of selecting the product, all the consumption, and monitoring how the product's been used, how they should repair it, how they can repair it, and ultimately how they will dispose it at the end of the life. And the manufacturer is only in charge of just providing some what we refer to as base type services, and like they provide the product, of course, but of course they provide some repair and spare parts. And there's a one-off transactions usually, and most of the services around the how bits, or how they can use the machines in their operations, sits within the remit and footprint of the customers. As we have seen it all in the past, probably 20, 30, for some industry that may even go to 40 years, that dynamic has started to shift. And we've seen it, this model, which is more about product service system or servitization. Basically, the manufacturer is still manufacturing the products, but most of the services related activities around what products you need to use in your operations, how you can use it, how you can maintain and repair it, and what you should do at the end of its life cycle has become part of the remit of the manufacturers, and the customers are only in charge of using the assets and pay the manufacturers as they get the outcome of the products. And of course, everything related to the disposals part about the being circular goes back to the manufacturers. So this shift from being very much focusing on a product-led business models into a product and services-led business models, this shift is what we refer to as servitization. Basically, making revenue through services rather than products alone. And in the whole idea of servitization, we're not talking about bundling products or bundling the product design and anything that's related to product. It's all about adding services and actually making money out of services in addition to what you have been making through the use of the products. And because the fact that a lot of the businesses that we have been working with, some of the logos that you saw, there are companies that have got very much product heritage, been designing products and selling products for hundreds of years. Now they've started to explore services. So we're not saying that you should abandon your products. It's about other types of avenue to actually create value for the customers. The origin of servitization from a researcher view goes back to a paper that was published in 1988, believe it or not. The paper, which is on the screen, they looked at it very much from the commercial perspective rather than anything else. They were talking about how companies can bundle products and services to make more money, basically. And since then, kind of between 1988 and up until the year 2000, the concept of servitization didn't get that much attraction, at least in academia. And then again, it got picked up, let's say in year 2000, 2001, 2002 again, where we started to look at servitization in the UK, where we started looking at how we should help manufacturers to be more competitive in the landscape of low-cost economies. And then we came across this word servitization. Again, we started to explore. And again, since then, this is the diagram that we put together, and actually a copy of it is in the book, to look at different strands and different concepts that have been looking at this quite similar topic. On the left side, you've got the contributions originated from the research communities. As I mentioned, the product service system is a very big topic. Mostly started with our colleagues in Scandinavia, looking at the topic from the sustainability aspects and circular economy. They are still very active. Of course, business model design, business model innovation, that has started to look at the topic of service-led business models, and so on and so forth. I guess you're more familiar with some of these topics like service design and design thinking. And these are the topics that's been looked at it from the research community. And on the right side of the screen, you can see some of the contributions originated from, like, let's say, practice community, like through life engineering services, been looked at by colleagues across defense, by Rolls-Royce and other colleagues. Smart connected products and integrated solutions. We've seen it all. Subscription economy, field services. And what we believe is that servitization is an umbrella term that brings all of these terms together, because some of these aspects have got their whole initiatives around sustainability. Some of them have got very much heritage around the digital aspects. We believe servitization is about all of them. It's about the changes in business models, which includes different aspects of the product and services design, but of course into other aspects, which is the organizational side as well, which I will come to that. Brian, I can see there's some questions coming in. Shall I carry on, or do you want me to stop? I don't know which way.
Hi, Ali. I would say carry on, and
okay.
I would say carry on, and we'll save the conversation till after. I think we should hear you through.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to double check it with you. Perfect. So, of course, when we think about services, mostly I should know, but I don't know the background of most of you in the car. But most of the types of services that manufacturers, industrial firms tend to provide to their customers that we see in the three different types. There are base services, which is mostly focuses on the provision of the product. And these are about warranties, spare parts, and product provisions, of course. The next level is about intermediate services, which is mostly about the outcome focuses on the condition of the product. So these are around trainings, repair and maintenance, and overhaul. But what we are really very much interested are these advanced services, which is about the capability that is enabled by the use of the product. And I'll come to the different examples. If you see the spectrum of base into intermediate to advanced services, these are the services that supporting the products, which are base services, and the services that supporting the customers, which we refer to as advanced services. And when we think about servitization, there are basically two types of changes that we've seen in the organizations that are happening. On the one hand, it's all about changes in the business models. Of course, it's about new business models, business model innovation. And as I said, if you step back, I'm talking about those businesses that have been traditionally focusing on product-led business models. So as you can imagine, it's a big shift when it comes to the business models, either to substitute the business model to a services-led ones, or having a parallel business models around their organizations. So on the one hand, it's about business model and business model design and business model innovation. And of course, on the other hand, it's about organizational change. It's about new capabilities, processes, and brand boundaries that need to be involved. I try to look at each of them in turn quite quickly. So when you look at it from the business model perspective, there are so many different frameworks out there. I'm sure a lot of you have come across like frameworks like Business Model Canvas, or a lot of other colleagues in the States that have been looking at the business model innovation, business model design. What we realize and I've been publishing is around a little bit simplifying the business model lens when we look at servitization, because servitization is already a complicated topic. We didn't want to complicate it with another lens. So we focus on three key aspects of business models, or services-led business models, which you can see on the screen. So on the one hand, the blue one is around the value propositions. Of course, it's about what is it that the customers, that you would provide to the customers around those different types of services. Ultimately, it's about value creation and the delivery. What do you need to have in place in order to be able to develop these services and actually deliver these services? In what way actually you deliver these services to the customers? What sort of resources, people, processes you need to have in place to be able to develop and deliver those? And ultimately, it's about the value capture, which is the orange box. It's about now you've created value for the customers. How much of that value that needs to be captured back to the organizations? How are we going to charge the customers, and what sort of revenue models that we're going to charge the customers? And we've seen different models that we can discuss it further around, like pay-per-use. One of the issues that sometimes I come across is that a lot of businesses, when you talk about servitization, they're going to say, oh, yes, it's a pay-per-use model. Yes and no, because pay-per-use is an element of a servitization or service-led business model. It's about how you're charging the customers or clients rather than as the whole business model, because you need to think about, ultimately, you should think about the customer requirements and the design, and of course, how you're going to deliver it. And of course, a big element of it is about revenue model. When you think about these three elements, there is one outcome, which is about competitive advantage. So the outcome of these three elements in the business model world is about competitive advantage. How does this business model, or each element of this business model, either my services value propositions, or the ways in which I charge the customers, or the ways in which I deliver it to the customers, help me to stand out in the competition? So what is it that I'm doing better in the competition when I'm comparing to the others? A classic example of this, I can go through it, is around Rolls-Royce Power by the Hour, which I'm hoping that's my next slide, but I'll come to the examples after the services scale case. But if I want to focus on one box of this, because I can talk the whole day about this, but I'm going to focus on one box of the business model, which is about customer value proposition. And in the book and in the work that we're doing with businesses, we have developed what we refer to as services staircase, which is basically the offerings for the customers. There are different levels that the companies go through in terms of the staircase to the maturity level, but there are these levels of products and product spare parts. If you remember, I mentioned to you about base services. So basically, businesses say we supply the products and we supply the spare parts of the products to the clients. The next level is around these intermediate services, which is around product breakfast, short maintenance and performance advisory, which is around we restore the condition of the product. A short maintenance is about we guarantee a performance in restoring the condition of the product, and ultimately we guide the capture of more value from the products. We've heard a lot these days around using digital, using different sensors, data analytics, etc. So we put lots of sensor around our machines, our products. We are able to gather lots of data around how customers are actually using our machines in their practice, in their operations. We gather those data back, we analyze them, and we're able to provide feedback back to the clients in terms of in the form of advisory type services. And ultimately, we've got these advanced services, which is about guaranteeing the outcome of the products. And the way in which we see it is around 3 levels. You can either guarantee the outcome of your own products. Sometimes your product sits within the larger machines. If it's, for example, a packaging machine, it sits across a larger machines. You might be able to provide the outcome of the entire business line. And there's an example out there which I can share with you quite quickly. Sometimes you would be able to actually provide the outcomes of the entire process of let's say a factory or an operations of a factory. An example of this is a company that we're working with. For some of you may be familiar with, is a company called Tetra Pak. They are world leading in terms of the packagings. They are entering into moving from just providing the machines to, let's say, foods manufacturer, food processing companies, into providing the outcome, which is around we provide the good pack outside the line, and they are moving above that into getting to providing outcomes in terms of the process capabilities. They are entering into capability as a service. So we give you the capability to be able to package your food or pack of crisps or ice cream or whatever that is. So these are the different levels of a services maturity that companies can go through. Most of the business that we are working with are in this space with the aspiration to actually make the footprint larger and get into the different types of services that we've been talking about. If I want to give you some examples, I mean, the most iconic example of servitization is the power by the hour. I mean, in the 50s, probably in the 60s and 70s, or a little bit later on, about 40 years ago, American Airlines went to Rolls-Royce saying, look, we can't really afford to buy your engines. We want to move our passengers from A to B, but we can't really afford to buy the engines. And basically, if something happens to your engines, it's going to be very expensive for us to repair it, and it's going to be sometimes we don't have the knowledge in-house to be able to do it. So they went away and they came up with this idea of power by the hour, in the sense that we will give you the engines, we will give you the thrust, the thrust to be able to move your passengers from A to B, and you pay us as you move your passengers, and we'll monitor everything that is related to the engines. Just leave it with us, we will take care of it. That has There has been moved on since the day that it came out. I think they celebrated the 50th years a couple of years ago, and that has been in place for a number of years. But of course, that has been evolved throughout years. Now they are very much into predictive maintenance, so they know in their data center up in Derby in the UK. They are gathering information from all the Rolls-Royce engines across the world after the first 4 minutes of the plane taking off, and then they know before everyone else the likelihood of something that might happen to the engines, and they've got the different levels that they can intervene with the airline, even with the cockpit, with the pilot, to tell them about what they need to do. So this is the most iconic examples. The other examples is, of course, about that we can refer to is a company that we've been working with. It's called Baxi. They are into manufacturing gas boilers in the UK, and the whole idea of moving us from selling the boiler into selling kind of like a heat as a service. And ultimately into comfort as a service. So you pay based on the temperature that you get at home. And there are other examples out there, like Goodyear, as I said, like Michelin and Goodyear, and another company that I've been working personally very, very closely in the States, that they've started to move from selling the tires, as they call it, a black rounded rubber with a hole in the middle, into selling mobility and selling kind of like a free mobility, not free mobility, hassle-free mobility, customers and clients. And more recently, they actually announced the proactive solution businesses in Europe and in the States. And these are other examples that I put on the screen, like with Philips Lighting as a Service. A lot of the airports, the Schiphol airports in Amsterdam, all the lightings are actually on a lighting as a service contract with Philips. Caterpillar in the States, the huge amounts of their contracts are actually coming up from their predictive maintenance, and so on and so forth. You can see other examples here. So if you recall that I talked to you about, there are two changes that happens inside the organizations when we talk about servitization. And on the one hand, we're talking about the business models, which I'll try to quickly go through it and try to explain what do I mean by that and different elements of it. But the bigger part, I mean, another big part of the servitization is about understanding the organization and organizational change. And a couple of years ago, we did a study of around 30 odd multinational businesses, and we studied them as to understand how these companies actually go about servitization. And we developed a model which is this model here, which explains different stages that organizations go through when they are going through servitization. To start with, what we've seen in these businesses is they go through the phase that we refer to as exploration. It's the phase that they come across this notion of servitization. They realize that they need to do something more for their customers, or they need to compete in the competition by doing something more for the customers. And they start identifying some of the elements of service-led business models, start to getting some tractions internally and also externally to see whether these are the right strategies, these are the right business models for us. Once they gain some internal kind of momentum going, they move into the engagement section. And the engagement is all about engaging internally with the right people inside the organizations, but also externally with different types of clients, and actually experiment some of these elements with their customers. Once they get some sort of success with some of the customers, they move into expansion. And expansion is when you actually roll out the entire business model. It's not just about testing with maybe one or two specific customers. You actually start rolling out the entire business model to a segment of the customers. And again, after they receive some feedback, some successes, they move into what we refer to as exploitation, which is basically as services-led business models become either the primary business model of the business, or they become an important parallel business model of the organization. And this is the world of where Rolls-Royce is today, which is about over 50% of the revenue for the company comes from their services-led business models. And as you can see, it's a roadmap, as we call it, and there are lots of different activities that the companies go through. Sometimes you go through these activities, you have to go back again, something might happen. And as you can see, there are around this framework, there are 4 types of forces that impacts the speed of which you go through this transformation. Of course, it's about market-centric and technology. It's about market pull and technology push. Do we have the right market? Do we have the right customers in place? And ultimately, do we have the right technology that we can build our services? On the left side, of course, you've got the organizational readiness. Do we have the right people in the organization? Do we have the right processes? And on the very far right side is about the value network, about the supply chain, about the network of the companies that we are working with. I'm just going to flick through. Can you remind me, Brian, of the time? Do I have like a couple of minutes left? Is that okay?
You probably have a couple of minutes left, yeah. And then we'll
okay.
Yeah, take 2 or 3 minutes. We'll wrap it up at 3:40 and give folks some time to pitch in.
Perfect. I'm just going to go very quickly on the remaining. There's this idea of, I'll be happy to share the slides, of course, with you, but there's this idea of why servitization is important. And again, based on the studies that we've done, we came up with 4 key incentives. Of course, there's an argument about performance, about profitability, more revenue, productivity. It's around growth because companies are starting to serve more segments. The whole idea of about exports, development of new products. So there's an argument about growth, resilience. These are usually a very long-term contracts. You're able to actually lock in your clients and lock out competitors. And ultimately, which is a very, very key point for us, especially in Europe, is about sustainability, environmental sustainability, because servitization helps companies to become more resource efficient. Argument. So these are the 4 areas around why servitization is important. One last slide that I really want to share with you is around the how. Quite quickly, if you recall that I talked to you about 2 different changes inside the organizations and the business model and organizational change. For a number of years, we were dealing with, we knew that the servitization is about these 2 changes. We weren't sure about which comes first or are they happening at the same times. And we had the aha moment when we were writing the book last year and a couple of years ago, that these are happening, but not simultaneously. And we came up with this diagram, which is about whale diagram because it looks like a whale. Basically, what we're saying here is around, yes, both changes are happening inside the organizations, but they're not simultaneously. The blue one is the business model change inside the organization. Every organization needs to start developing the business model first. Start to understand their customers, start understanding the needs of the clients. And once they get to a level that they feel that this is the right way for the organization to go, then they can have their organizations with them. And it's all about every change within the organizations. In this case, needs to start with a business case, needs to start with building some momentum around it. And in this case, it's about business models. And when you get to a point that you see that there's some successes, some answers for that, then you get internal buy-in, executives buy-in, and they come on board. And ultimately, there will be several of these business models, several of these testing and experimentation with business, with different clients. And ultimately, the whole organizations come with you. Apologies, I did it quite quickly, and I'm going to finish this with this quote, which I really like, which is actually sometimes I share with my colleagues in universities because we are going through lots of changes in the higher education in the UK, which is about growth and comfort never coexist. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ali. Great presentation, great story about the work that you've done with Professor Baines and the others at the Aston Business School over the last 10 years. I apologize to you and I apologize to the audience. I've had connection issues today. And so that's why I wasn't able to adequately introduce you. You know, and I want to give some context to our guests here today, the members here today. I've been fascinated by the work that you've been doing at the university, the evolution of servitization since Power by the Hour. I can't believe it's 40 or 50 years now since that was innovated. But you know, one of the things that prompted me to want to talk with you and have the team talk with you is that I feel that that we in the service design community are maybe missing an opportunity to better partner with the businesses that you're describing who are looking to innovate through services. And one of the things that struck me, I think might have been a conference of yours I attended, where I think some of the folks from the team at Rolls-Royce were actually speaking about their process. And I think I might have mentioned this to you in a chat that we had before, where the gentleman described their design process as being product design for services. And all I could think at the time was, well, where's service design for products? Shouldn't we have both involved in this, both a product design for services, service design for products, and bring and merge the two together, which prompted me to start to think about how might we better engage. And I suppose one of the questions I would like maybe you could help us with is, in all of the companies that you've been working with, have you seen evidence of service design teams within those organizations, either internal teams, or are you finding that they're working with external partners, or are you finding service design as a practice completely absent from it?
That's a very good point. And as I said, we've been working and as you mentioned as well, we've been working very closely with Rolls-Royce because they are a pioneer in this space. I would say I started to look at Servitization probably 12, 13 years ago, and the design aspects was mostly focusing still on the product side. Right. 12, 15 years ago, because of the fact that, as I said, a lot of these businesses, the manufacturers, their heritage is into product and product design, and they are very, I wouldn't say it's very unfamiliar, but they're not very much into two things. One is about service design, and one big element, correct me if I'm wrong, one big element of service design is about empathizing with the customers and understanding customers. And if you recall, part of that conversations, and if you speak with some senior folks at Rolls-Royce, is that probably 15, 20 years ago, they got the product design people in front of their clients, in front of the airframer or in front of the airlines, and they were really scared because they hadn't seen the clients before, and that shows how disengaged they have been from understanding the customers. And I guess one of the key elements of the service design, which I love about, is about sitting down with customers and understanding their pains, understanding gains, and actually coming up with a new design element of it. Of course, other stuff as well. Now, let's say 10 years on, because of the realization of the business opportunity, about the businesses that are getting to understand why it matters, they are now starting to invest more into the service design. And then I'm hearing more and more that there are designing products for services. I think this is what you referred to, didn't you? So designing product for services, in a sense that they're also reverting. I think they get mixed up as well. Sometimes it's designing. We are designing a service, and a product is part of it. It's an element of it, and that shows that we are mostly focusing on the outcome, regardless of what product or services they use. But the realization of mostly in the services design principles, that you get closer to the customers. But correct me if I'm wrong. This is what I've seen, and this is what I've seen more and more. Very, very few businesses, just part of your question, very few of these businesses that I've come across, and I shared it with you, they have dedicated services design team, to be honest.
Okay.
And they, because of the fact that they haven't yet realized the importance of services, or those high level services, to be honest.
And this is the opportunity that I want to offer to the service designers in the room today. There is a great opportunity for us to expand our benefit and provide our unique value to these companies who have traditionally had this product mindset, make a widget, sell a widget, and if I sell 10,000 widgets, I'm in business. If I sell 100,000, I'm rich, as opposed to the transfer to the service mindset of value and relationships over time. It's a very, very different mindset. And I think it takes a shift. And I know that, one of the things that I like, and you shared it in the presentation, is the result of that research you conducted and that process, that flow, that business transformation sort of evolution from exploration to engagement to expansion to exploitation. One of the things that I've been doing myself in the background here is I've been aligning what value can service design professionals bring to a business at exactly those 4 stages in that process. And so there clearly are really kind of very obvious ones. I mean, one of the ones that you identify, obviously, is understanding customer needs and expectations. Well, service designers are incredibly good at understanding customer needs and expectations. You need to create a business case, right? You need to get comfortable with this new business idea. Service designers could contribute to that business model. One of the things that you need to do is convince senior management to actually take the next step and start to engage, right? And start to look at that first pilot. Service designers are great at collaboration. Collaboration, co-design, co-creation are fundamental to the service design way of working. And unless we bring business teams into the process, we're failing. So there are tons of opportunities at each of those stages for us to do that. And I love, I would like this. I know we've got about 10 minutes left, but I'm hoping that our service design team professionals here, I would like to ask them, are there any of you engaging in this way today? Are there any of you engaging with product companies who are looking to make this leap? And I would advise, yes, I'm going to touch the chat and see if there's any.
One of the things that I wanted to add, Brian, to it is a lot of the businesses, these industrial businesses and manufacturers, they see still a large number of, they see services as an after sale, it's an afterthought. So we're going to design a product, we're going to sell it, and then see what happens. But then those have realized that, look, we need to stop, we need to change the business models, and services should become part of the actual part of the business model, or the business model of the business. They are the ones who are getting more and more into these concepts. Sorry. These are the ones who may not. These are the businesses who have started. They may not call it service design, but they started to implement a lot of the principles that you mentioned. And it's the final point on that is, for a lot of these businesses, it's quite hard to start to seeing their customers as their collaborators rather than just customers, and that takes time, because you ultimately become if you win, we win. If you can make money out of the services and products because you're paying me as you use it, so it's a win-win scenario. So we become partners in that. That will take time. But yeah, I think there are a couple of questions in chat, and I'll be happy to hear from your colleagues as well.
And I think Shreya has been influenced like you and referenced you and the university's work in her studies. She was asking, could you share some triggers for businesses that help them? What are the triggers that help them realize that they need to shift to a service-led business model?
It's a very interesting question, and I've seen a lot of different triggers. But if I want to group them into probably 2 or 3, one is in some of the businesses that I've seen, it's a top-down order. It's an executive-led type of trigger where the highest level of the organizations, even the CEOs or senior VPs, they believe in customers, clients, etc. and they ordered the organization that this is the future that we need to move. And the example of that is for instance, MAN Truck and Buses in the UK, where the CEO, actually he's an honorary professor at Aston, he saw an opportunity and he decided that this is the future of the business. If we don't do it, we'll be out of the business, or we are losing a lot of our market share. And it was a top-down order. So they move away from just thinking about what truck that we are building and selling, to shift a lot of the performances of the sales team into services and after sales services around the predictive maintenance that they've had around the truck. So it was a very much top-down order. That was one of the trigger points. The other trigger points have been around competitors. So businesses are coming across their competitors to say, oh, a couple of years ago, Michelin, probably 10, 12 years ago, Michelin bought a leading Brazilian IT company, and all of their competitors started to question, oh, what's going on? Why a tire manufacturer bought a data analytic company? And they started to realize, oh, they want to do something more for their clients, and they realize it's around services. It was another trigger point for Goodyear to actually push it forward. So that was the second one. And the third one is around, that I've come across, is around technology, to be honest. That companies come across a piece of technology, software or hardware, oh, this pieces of kit can enable us to do more for our customers. We can create more. And we've seen it more and more today with AI. It creates a lot of opportunities. And it's not about just using AI for the development of this, but it's using AI for fine-tuning a lot of these, either design or implementation side. So these are the three trigger points around top-down, organizational-led triggers, technology-led, and competitor-led that I've come across.
Well, I know that, the other thing I should point out is that you share quite a few case studies from that research. And for most of the companies that went through that transformation, it seemed to me like it was 5 to 7 years. This was not happening overnight. And in many situations, it wasn't just one trigger. It was almost accumulated triggers, right? You say top down, okay, well, maybe they hired a chief innovation officer who came in with some new ideas and started to socialize them. Maybe there was an acquisition, or maybe there was a shakeup in the market that, hey, guess what? We're no longer a cash cow. What
Absolutely.
do we do? So I think it seems like it's something that occurs over time.
Yes, exactly.
I would say for the service design community is, which of those triggers can we support the most? I feel that unless you're exploring, you're not going to move to engage. You're not going to move to expansion unless you've engaged and proven it in a pilot. So I do believe that at various stages, we do bring a certain value, a very specific value. And I think it's the challenge to us is to be able to recognize what that is and who it will resonate with and how it's actually going to contribute the value that's required to make it a success. Because the goal is not to just stop. I mean, if you fail after exploration, if you can't make the business case, well, then you're never going to move forward. If you can't prove ROI after your pilot, you're not going to be exploiting that pilot and expanding it. So it's really
Absolutely.
Interesting evolution. And we almost, I'm sure even within the business and within design, you have to evolve at the pace. There needs to be a synergy. Yes. And the other thing I would say to our service design community, by the point in time where a company is really kind of now shifted to this service side, we have to be very mature in our practices too. It's no point us going in saying, well, we can do some research. Well, no, we needed that in exploration. Now we're exploiting it. We need service design leaders now who can transform with us at that pace. So I feel like it's a really fascinating roller coaster ride, I would say it. I like seeing your one whale turned into 3 whales, right? Which suggests that kind of roller coaster, but it also suggests iteration, which is really
it is iteration,
right?
Just a couple of quick points, if I may. Absolutely, I think there's a huge potential. I don't want to call it market, but it's a huge potential for the service designers, especially in the industrial sector, because previously the product design versus service design is a big clash inside the organizations. Now it has started to shift because of the realization of the organizations. We have developed a game. I don't know. Are you familiar with Snakes and Ladders in the States? Is
Oh
it a
yeah,
game
well,
that you?
Ireland, so I know it. Yeah.
Oh, good. So we have actually developed Snakes and Ladders games for servitization. There's the 49 steps that go. And as you said, sometimes you hit a ladder that you've got an investment from the business or something that you shoot a couple of steps up, or you hit the head of the snakes, which is about, for instance, your champions within the organization left, or the CEO's change, everything else, and it pushed you all the way back. In the case of Goodyear, I got involved with the chief innovation officer who came to Aston on a private jet, or corporate jet, they called it, in 2014. And then only last year, 10 years, they established in globally. They have now got a vice president for proactive solutions. So it takes 10 years, but it's now global. But as you said, if you're not now, you need to be part of the game, because they've got P&L, they've got indicators, they've got performance, etc., and you need to be ready to hit the ground. But I would love to get closer to your community as well, to see, as you said, in what stage companies needs to be engaged with this. Is it very early on? Is it through one maybe engagement onwards, etc.? The final point on this is that, as I said, one of the biggest challenges that we are coming across to servitization, among other stuff, is about resistance to change. And the biggest resistance to change comes from product sales versus services sales. We have been selling things that we can see for 100 years. Now you're expecting us to sell something that we cannot see. What is it? To be honest, services. They come back and say there's a big resistance. We are overcoming that in a lot of different industries, but I would love to work closely with you and your colleagues to see, okay, in what elements that in what stage that we can get actually closer in that sense. That would be ideal.
On the whole organizational change piece, because it's not even just resistance to change within the organization. There's also the one that's called the silo trap, right? Which is that causes the similar kind of organizational issues. Somebody, thank you, Terrell. She called in the US, it's called Chutes and Ladders. So.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Good to know.
So I know we've only got a couple of minutes left. We could probably keep on chatting for quite a while. And I've seen some very nice messages in our chat from folks who really enjoyed the conversation today and your perspective, because many of us are, I know it's another question, another topic. I used the word product service system with you in a previous chat, and you said, "Oh, that's different than servitization." But a lot of us in the service design community might call the smart service projects we're working on related to a product that's a smart product producing a smart service. Is that a product service system? Because it's a product. Are we servitizing because we're now making money from services? As a service-led model versus the product model, et cetera, et cetera. So,
or service dominant logic, I guess sometimes you come across those things as well. Service dominant logic, I guess.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, no such a thing exists as product. I guess everything's a service.
There's no product dominant logic that I've heard of. So I know we've had the conversation. I've been trying to follow the chat. We got Shreya's questions. Everybody, we will be. We've recorded today's meetup, and it will be available in a week or two or three, potentially in our Watch and Learn section of the website. So it's in the Service Design Network website. And the other thing I wanted to say real quick before we go, Ali, is I wanted to let folks know your website is full of amazing resources. Go Google Advanced Services Group, ASG, and go to the hamburger menu on the top right. Go to the research section. There's some great papers in there on the transformation model. A lot of the images that you're seeing in Ali's deck are available there. So I would highly recommend. There's good case studies there. So you can see the work that the team has been doing with all of these companies. It's a great place for you to dig deeper into what Ali has shared today. Would you agree, Ali?
And if you had any, absolutely, thank you. And if I think we'll be able to share a version of the slides if you wanted with colleagues as well. And by all means, that if there are interest, happy to answer any questions. You can drop me an email, can have a chat, and it would be great to join at any time and see you actually face to face.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ali. And everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for being members. And if you're guests of Ali and you'd like to become a member, just go to our website and join. And Ali, guess what? Today, I'd like to offer you a membership, a free membership. So I'll be in touch with you and we'll get your details.
I would love that.
And we'll give you officially become a member of the Service Design Network. All right?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Birgit's got to fly. She's got a big she's joining another group right away. So she's had to prepare for that while joining this one. So thank you, folks. Till next time, we'll be back in April with Deutsche Telekom from Germany sharing the work that they're doing there.
Thank you, Brian. Have a good day.
Thank you, folks. Bye, Ali.